We'll give it one more minute and then we will get started here right at 2:01. Hey everybody, thanks for joining this session this afternoon. We're going to be talking about VMware's new world of licensing and bundled packages. So we're going to be demystifying VCF bundles and licenses. We're going to get some tips out there, you guys, to understand the new world of the VCF bundles, the VVF bundles, all the different VMware bundles, how they're licensed, how it's all put together. And I'm going to go through this with myself and Andrew. We're going to join you here and go through this presentation over the next 60 minutes or so. Feel free to use the chat. Any questions in there you may have, we'll be monitoring the chat and be responding to those questions. So today's agenda, just a little bit about 27 Virtual, who we are. You're going to find out why VCF is important to your business in general, at a very high level. Then we'll learn how to migrate from a traditional license model to the VCF license model. We're going to learn the tips and tricks on how to get the most out of your investment. And then time to value success with 27 Virtual in either model. So I'm going to introduce myself. I'm William Grismore, and we have Andrew with us. I'll give him his turn here in just a second. 27 Virtual, just a little bit of background. We're an education business. We started back in 2006. We're known for the Ninja, started in 2014. Some of you may have heard of that. It's a special VMware training program that we've been running for quite some time. Did an original VCF Ninja back in 2020-ish. And we're a company that provides education services to VMware by Broadcom. We create and provide courseware, labs, instructors. We have trained literally tens of thousands of folks on core VMware, NSX, and VCF. We developed the Ninja program. That means instructors, labs, everything you need to run the course. The Security Ninja, the VCF Ninja. And there is going to be a new updated VCF Ninja, which is currently in progress, and it's due out sometime around May or June. We also have a consulting business started in 2017. So we are a group of VMware experts. We're founded in the education business, then grew out into the consulting business. So it's like two separate companies that kind of complement each other. To date, we have done 275 plus VMware deployments, 141 NSX designs and deploys, 50 plus V2T migrations, and 20 plus VCF design and deploys. My background is co-founder, helped start the company back in 2017. Before that, I was instructor in the other business. And Andrew, you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Andrew Grismore here with 27 Virtual. Just like Bill, I taught classes for the education side of the business, and now I am the solutions architect here at 27 Virtual Consulting.
Yeah, I think it's actually the back of your head, too. Okay. And you can see we have a lot of fun with our events. We do a lot of events. Do me a favor and follow us on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn now, you can follow us. We have different events we post time to time, whether they're online events or training. You want to take advantage of those things. Also, all our LinkedIn recordings previously are out there. You can also go to our YouTube channel, our 27 Virtual YouTube channel, and we upload the content there as well. So please take advantage of that educational content and use it anytime you want to take a look.
Yeah, I think, for this particular presentation, and as many as we can, we want them to be evergreen, where it's not just one live presentation. You'll be able to go back and take a look at this, reference it later if you have any questions.
All right, but hopefully the deployment numbers will go up. So we were lucky enough to receive, or honored enough to receive, the Broadcom Application Network and Security Partner of the Year Award for North America in 2023. So 27 Virtual is known in the industry for being really good at the VMware NSX part of the VCF stack. We do the whole stack, but we got recognized for that. The network and security portion is like the NSX networking and the security, the distributed firewall, the microsegmentation part. Application refers to the advanced load balancer, also known as the AVI load balancer, a company VMware acquired several years ago. And we've done a lot of different deployments around security, DFW, microsegmentation, software-defined networking, and the AVI load balancer. So hopefully that builds some trust and gives you guys some idea of who we are as a company between our education background, our consulting, and now this award we received in 2023. So let's get started. So one of the things on our agenda was to find out why VCF is important to your business. And we got a little guy there's wondering, what the big deal is. So, why would somebody think that that's something they should be doing in their organization? I mean, VCF has been around for a while. It's not new, but why would we want to go there? Why should we leverage this new full stack or start using the full stack as it was originally intended? So if you think about how environments are built today in a VMware environment, we've got a little frustrated guy over there. It's a lot of different products. You got vSphere, NSX, vSAN, all these different VMware products, and you basically purchase them, and maybe not necessarily all at the same time. So sometimes the purchasing process can be a little bit challenging, and then you got to deploy it in a certain order, make sure you have the right version of it, and then over time you have to maintain and manage the product. So one of the reasons you might look to VCF is it organizes the product in a way that makes it easier to purchase, easier to design and deploy, maintain and manage. So Andrew, why don't you talk about how we can move from the old way to the new way with these bundles?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so everybody knows, if you're curious about VCF in general, what it contains, the benefits of each part of VCF, which we'll get into a little bit high level here as it pertains to licensing. But that's what Bill's talking about with our YouTube channel, our past LinkedIn Lives. We have full-blown videos on anything you could want to see about what makes up VCF, and even deeper dives into components like NSX and NSX networking in VCF. So that's out there. But what we want to focus on today is really the conversation around licensing. There's a lot of fear out there, a lot of confusion, and we want to do everything that we can today to make sure you know what you're looking at, what it takes to get things done, and maybe what license level you want to look at. So we've gone from an old model where there's all kinds of options, thousands and thousands of SKUs, and at this point, we've really narrowed it down to a couple of options as your foundation or your base of your licensing and your subscription. And then if you choose to, if you go to VCF, you can start to add on some components as well. So the first levels are vSphere Standard and vSphere Essentials Plus. Those are the most basic vSphere functionality, right? The lowest level aimed at some of the smaller infrastructures out there. And it gets you that basic vSphere functionality, and that's pretty much it. That's the idea is, hey, you can keep running vSphere at a lower price point. Then there's vSphere Foundation or VVF, which is the next level up. And that's going to get you your vSphere. It's going to get you some of the ARIA suite. And I think there's a little bit of vSAN in there as well. So, that gives you some base functionality as well with a little bit of extra flavor on top. And then the flagship model and what VMware really wants to see everyone go to, where all of the R&D, all of the making things work together effort is going into, is VCF, for VMware Cloud Foundation. And like Bill said, this is nothing new. And we're even going to talk about what VCF used to look like from a pricing standpoint, what it looks like today, and why you might want to go toward that model. Here at 27 Virtual, we really want to see VCF out there in the field. We're a VCF organization, and that's where a lot of our customers are going to be living, is in that VCF space. So one other thing to note before we move forward is that although there's a pretty decent price disparity between VVF and VCF, if you're evaluating the two, I want you to know that from a VMware discounting perspective, they don't have a lot of room from a VVF type of view. The 135 is kind of where it's at, but there is some discounting capability in VCF. So when you look at all the features, as we'll get into in a little bit, you'll probably want to lean in that VCF realm. And if you make it clear that VCF is the direction that you want to go, you'll usually find your partner, your VMware team, very willing to work with you to get you to where you need to be from a pricing perspective. So keep that in mind as we go forward.
So here we have that VVF licensing bundle. So if you look at that, as you're going through that, Andrew, I was thinking about, well, what are the differences? If I'm a customer, what am I looking at? So if you look at this really close, what really stands out to me, if you look at the top of this, it's the ARIA operations and the ARIA operations for logs. Those are the main things in the bundle that you're going to get. So maybe if I'm a vSphere customer, maybe I didn't have the licensing for ops potentially. So if I do go with that VVF bundle, that's definitely something I could take advantage of. And maybe the vSphere for Tanzu, if you're looking to do some kind of container-based workloads in your environment, you would have the capability there. And then there are going to be these add-ons you can include in this, in addition to the 135, per core. And the other thing too that I wanted to mention as we go into this is that even before the Broadcom acquisition, the idea of per core was already happening. VMware had made a switch from, per socket or per CPU licensing to per core. And then the next step that VMware was also looking to do before moving into this acquisition was going to subscription anyway. So that was already predefined, before the acquisition took place. And this just kind of helps because if you're going to go to that kind of model, I mean, you'd have to say, Andrew, having simpler SKUs to pick from in bundles makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've had customers go from hundreds of SKUs to 2. So it is as simple as that. As long as you know what you need and what you're getting into, then the licensing is very straightforward. We'll talk about it a little bit more as we get into some of the more detailed components of the licensing.
So here's the VCF bundle, and this is everything under the sun you could ever want. So if you think about before the Broadcom acquisition, you have VCF has been around for a long time. So VCF is not new, but the bundling of VCF is new. And the great thing about this is you get everything you need in that core bundle, which is the one on the top of the screen there. So that main bundle is what we're talking about that gives you that at that $350 per core retail MSRP price. So the vCenter, the ESXi, the vSAN, the networking, the HCX Enterprise, that's huge. HCX is one of the best tools, that VMware has to help people migrate from all different platforms. You can do things through API, you can do it programmatically, you can use the UI, and then you get the full ARIA suite, the automation and the ops. So you can take advantage of those, once it's deployed. And then you get all the different add-ons as well that you can throw in there. So anything you want to do, whether it's live recovery, which is the new disaster recovery tool, the vSAN enterprise capabilities, the firewall, the Tanzu mission control, all those things are capable. And one of the new hot topics is AI, and Private Cloud Foundation is also listed there as well. So I just want to make it clear that when we talked about the pricing before, the bundle, the 350, the 135, those prices are for that top box, not the add-ons on the bottom. So we want to learn how to go from how licensing used to be to how it is now in the new VMware by Broadcom model. So there's this VCF licensing model, and there's a software-defined data center model or operational model. So how do we go from, Andrew, can you explain to me how we do this? We're going to go from this old model to this new model. Can you please tell me how it works? Because I'm a little bit confused still.
Yep. So there's definitely a lot of questions around this too. Even one, as we look at the VCF and the VVF, I've had questions like, hey, do I need VVF in order to get to VCF? Do I have to have both of those, or do I just choose one? So one last thing, out of the 4 options that we were showing before, you just need the one that you're going with. It's just the only one piece that you need is going to be that VCF. So you don't need to purchase VVF and VCF to unlock those capabilities. But now you're saying, okay, well, let's say I subscribe to VCF tomorrow. What happens? How do I deploy it? How do I get value out of it? What happens from a licensing perspective? And the answer is really nothing actually changes. The only difference is that when you go and you look at the licenses that you have, you're going to see VCF instead of the hundreds or thousands of SKUs that you had. You're looking at VCF is your license, maybe an add-on or 2. And then it's up to you where you take it from there. You can choose to use your infrastructure as it is, maybe deploy some of the components of VCF, maybe get some ARIA components out there, maybe you deploy NSX, but you can start utilizing the capabilities of VCF immediately. So just know that that is an option and you have those capabilities at your disposal. It's almost as if you procured those capabilities before the Broadcom acquisition. And even if you did that before, that VCF was a thing before Broadcom, we actually had some customers just buy VCF so that they could deploy all the components of it individually and not use the SDDC manager. So we want to drive value from this right away. The capabilities will be at your fingertips as long as you have that VCF subscription. The way that most people talk about VCF is where you use SDDC Manager. You get to utilize the VMware validated design. Everything is done in a cloud operational model. You take advantage of vSAN and a management domain. All of that is capable with VCF as well. But as it stands right now, you need some hardware to be able to deploy that on. So you either have to free some up in your existing hardware pool, maybe consolidate some workloads and free up what you'll create as your management and then your workload domains. Or maybe you aim for a hardware refresh where you can start with that SDDC model and migrate the workloads in. And that's a scenario where having HCX, the migration tool, is really useful as well. So if you're ready for it, you can jump straight into scenario 2. If you're not ready for it, maybe you aim for a hardware refresh, you can still get a ton of value out of VCF right away, and we can help you deploy any of those components that you're looking at.
So just to be clear, if I purchase a new VCF license, does that mean I have to buy the vSAN ready nodes today, or?
Nothing changes. So when you get your subscription for VCF, you can continue to operate as normal. Nothing actually changes until you make the decision to either deploy some of the components of VCF or to move into that fully SDDC manager type managed, private cloud type of model. And you can do that at your own pace, or you can prepare for that day one and then jump right into it. But that's totally up to you.
Okay. I think I got it. So the licensing model for now, so this is what you mean where I can purchase it, I have it, I own it. I don't necessarily have to deploy the vSAN ready nodes, deploy the SDDC manager. I can just own the licenses and just cut them up and use them as I want. And there's nothing special about those license keys that makes me deploy it as a bundle. Can I pull out individual keys and install individual components if I want to today? Is that something I can do?
Yeah, so anything that you could want out of what you subscribe to, you can deploy. So in this example, I think we show, you have your ESXi and your vSphere, your vCenter, but let's say you want to deploy NSX networking. You're only running vSphere before. You can jump right into deploying NSX networking, and you don't have to change anything else. You just deploy it into your existing infrastructure as if you bought it as an individual add-on pre-acquisition.
So I can do I'm sorry, what?
Same with the ARIA suite, right? You can just add that in, deploy it into your environment tomorrow.
So I've got it purchased. I go to the portal. I have all these keys. So in the red boxes that we're showing here, what customers can do is they can pick out those particular keys. They probably have already got their vCenter and their ESX, but now they have the key for ARIA, they have the key for NSX networking. They can deploy NSX managers. They can deploy the ARIA operations appliances. They can deploy and configure the firewall, whatever they want. So this is kind of like a logical view of the purchase with the VCF and then the add-on. And then this would be like we're deploying it in the environment. I can deploy my NSX edges, right? I can deploy bare metal edges if I wanted to. I got my NSX manager. I can prep my host for NSX. I could deploy, I don't have it highlighted there, but we could deploy vRealize automation or ARIA automation. Whatever components we want to grab out of that key base, we can deploy. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it gives me a lot of flexibility, it seems like. So I don't have to move to brand new vSAN nodes and deploy a management domain and a workload domain right away. I can do that when I'm ready. So I think that's the next model, right? So in this next model, I believe what we're going to show here is if you're a customer and you have that same as before, you have the same purchase, scenario 2. And what we can do is we can now, if we choose to, I guess at this point we have our vSAN ready nodes, right, Andrew?
Yep. So in this case, you have your vSAN ready nodes for at least your management domain, and you're going to deploy all of the components ideally underneath the SDDC manager umbrella. So that gives you the full stack, the VMware validated design. It's kind of a plug and play type of setup where you pre-plan everything, all the components, all their IP addresses, where they're going to live, everything like that. And then you deploy from a cloud builder tool, which takes you through the entire bring up process. So some front end planning, some new hardware, or at least newly available hardware for you to use to stand this up on, where just ESXi is installed and that's it. You let it run and it gives you these capabilities.
Sounds great to me. So let's see. So we have the SCDC model. So it's the same license key I had before, but now this time I actually have the hardware that I need to deploy it on. And I guess I could already have the vCAN ready nodes potentially, or I bought new ones, whatever the case is. And now I go through the process, like you said, the bring up, and I get it deployed, and I can use all these components as one bundle. And the benefit would be is I'm going to get that SCDC manager and all the components that go with it. And just to kind of outline that, these are the things that I get with VCF when I buy the bundle. I get vSphere, which we've known for 25 years, vSAN, which is required in that management domain, NSX networking specifically, I'll emphasize that there. So you're going to get all the SDN capabilities, vSphere for Tanzu, the SCDC manager to control the management domain of these components. And then kind of the extras that are thrown in are the Tanzu for vSphere and the ARIA suite. So you get full automation, operations, everything. So when we're talking VCF, that gives you all that capability included in that bundle. And then you can still have other additional add-ons as well. And this is kind of how it works functionally. So I have purchased VCF. I'm on option 2, which means I have the vCAN ready nodes for my management domain. And I've done the deployment with the bring up, and I have my management domain in place. And I got the NSX manager and vCenter that live in the management domain controlling the management domain itself. And then I've got an NSX manager and vCenter that are going to let me control the workload domain. And then the SDDC manager over on the left there is kind of managing the whole thing. And from a software bundle perspective, I get everything in red. I get everything in red. That's the stuff that I get for that $350 per core number, plus the add-ons, which in this case, we added on WATP. And we did that only in the workload domain. And we have live recovery. So we got the main suite with all VCF stuff, and then we got the add-ons with the ATP and the library.
Yep, it's just a matter of how you determine is best to actually deploy it. If you have the opportunity to jump into this SDDC type of model, then go for it. We have some customers that are refitting some of their hosts with some vSAN so that they can put this up and then just bring in the workloads as they go. We have other moving into a new colo, start fresh and go into this model. But there's still value to be had even if you don't do this.
So the old way, can you talk about the old way a little bit again?
Yeah, so I think, we're doing a licensing discussion. So it's important that we take a look at reality here. We've mentioned that there used to be tons and tons of VMware SKUs, and now a lot of our customers are at 1 or 2. But it also, moving to this model, removes a lot of the complication and the obscurity that came with the old pricing model, right? A lot of times our customers were entering into these ELA agreements where the requirement was net new spend, net new software capabilities being purchased so that you could do things like discount your SNS over a period of time. A lot of our customers were buying pieces and parts of the VCF solution and maybe not getting the max value because they forgot to buy or budget for one of the other components that could have really helped them with that. When you go to this subscription model, it's very straightforward. You pay the subscription, you get the full bundle of the capabilities. For VCF, everything is meant to work together, and you're going to have the highest level of licensing for everything. There's no more, oh, I thought I was going to get this, but I accidentally bought advanced instead of enterprise or what have you. Like, all of that goes away. It's completely simplified. You know exactly what you're going to get when you jump into that VCF subscription. So when you look at a 3-year term, the numbers are very straightforward. Again, it's not kind of obfuscated with some of it being upfront perpetual cost and some of it being SNS and it all blending together and not being really sure what's going on. It's a very straightforward licensing model where you understand the term, you can co-term everything, it's simplified, it's easier to get to. And this is the model that the vast majority of software companies have gone to. And like you mentioned before, Bill, VMware was doing this anyway. I'm sure we all heard of vSphere Plus and NSX Plus that was coming in the pipe, and those things aren't going to happen anymore. But vSphere was already moving to a subscription model. The days of just renewing SNS and possibly getting into a new ELA with some net new spend are gone. That's just the fact of the matter. The good news is that the capability set is going to be standardized. The R&D is going to go into making that capability set work together well. And this idea of like shelfware or not consuming what you own is going to be a lot less because you want to get that value out of a subscription model. So hopefully, as we go forward, we're going to see that VCF itself, all of the components of VCF before the acquisition, if you were to go to VCF, even in the new VMware owned subscription model, were actually more expensive than they are now. So if you want to.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you said about the different layers. Like it used to be, if we just talked about vSphere, it was like vSphere Standard, vSphere Advanced, and then vSphere Enterprise, Enterprise Plus, or whatever. Is VCF the same way now? Is there VCF Standard, VCF Advanced, VCF? What is it?
It's just VCF. You get the max capabilities of all the software.
I get HCX Enterprise as well. I get the full thing.
You get it all.
I just get the best of everything. So not only do I have reduced the number of SKUs, it's the best SKU, right?
Exactly. And like I said, that's the flagship model, right? We're looking at VCF in all scenarios. That's where VMware clearly wants their customer base to be. And that's why there's more discounting and more room to work with your teams on getting there.
Yeah, I think this is interesting. So you came up with this. I'm going to give you credit for this one, but there's basically 3 different scenarios in the marketplace right now. There's customers that have VCF already, the old VCF license, and they're going to go to the new VCF license. Now, there are actually a bunch of different versions of the old VCF license, but in generally speaking, it's still VCF. Then you got the customers that had vSphere that they bought originally with their service and support, and then the add-ons and the blending of the ELAs as they bought stuff in the future and trying to figure out what they had price-wise. You got those customers going to VCF. Then you got those bottom-end customers that had just vSphere that are going to be moving to VCF. So generally speaking, these are the 3 main things that we see in the field. Is that fair to say?
Yep, exactly.
So let's take a look at it. So this is the first one. This would be a customer that's going to be going from the old VCF to the new VCF. Just walk us through this, Andrew, on how this works and what the price comparison is. There's some big numbers here.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a really good question in the chat. I'm going to save that till the end. So please do stick around about, where R&D is going. We've been able to have some really good conversations with the CTO office at VMware. And I'll give you my take on VCF and R&D and how it's going to advance at the end of the presentation. But that said, yes, let's take a look at VCF from what it was before and what it is today. And we actually have real-world customer examples that we work with where they were actually invested in VCF before the Broadcom acquisition, right? And there was actually a subscription model for VCF prior to the Broadcom acquisition of VMware, before VMware shifted their focus really to VCF being the go-to model. And what you'll see right off the bat is that the price per core for VCF previous to Broadcom was $724. Now it's $350. So right off the bat, by making it so that VCF is the main way to go and the water rising a little bit for everybody, they're able to bring down the highest level of capability in the portfolio to a more reasonable price point. I think for a lot of customers previously to the acquisition, VCF was cost prohibitive, and now it's an actual conversation that our customers can have. In fact, as we go into the next example, so we've seen VCF to VCF, apples to apples, the price has been slashed. right? So then it's a question of, well, I wasn't a VCF customer before. And you're probably right, because VCF wasn't as widespread as it will be now that the pricing is lower. A very small percentage overall of customers in the VMware portfolio base or customer base were running VCF before. But now that it's more accessible, we're actually seeing it more on par of the level of, hey, if I was looking at NSX, or if I was looking at the ARIA suite previous to the Broadcom acquisition, moving to the VCF subscription model is about on par with purchasing one of those other solutions before the acquisition. So, NSX Enterprise Plus, which included things like HCX Advanced, ARIA Operations for Networks Advanced, it was prohibitively expensive before as well. It was a very hard piece to get into because, hey, for this one set of capabilities, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars. Well, now those capabilities are part of VCF. And for what it used to cost to buy, let's say NSX Enterprise Plus, you can now get NSX Plus all of those other capabilities like the ARIA suite, the HCX Enterprise, all at the highest level. So it's about even there. If you already own some of those components, then going to VCF will probably be a bit of a bump, but nothing astronomical in terms of comparison.
And we did put numbers on the left side because it's hard to know exactly what a customer would have specifically. But in this, if you kind of think about what we're presenting here, to try to keep it as simple as possible, and because the numbers could get really complex at some point, is think about that middle tier, which is pretty common for a lot of customers, right? You're in that middle tier. You didn't have VCF before. You bought vSphere, 8 years ago. You had SNN. You added on another product. You got a new ELA bundle, and it's all blended. And you're trying to figure out what it is. So the point that I wanted to make on this, if you look at the very bottom, with the new annualized payment system, if you have a 3-year VCF license for, $2 million or whatever it is, if you have that annualized payment over 3 years, then you'd have to take all the things that you purchased previously, what the blended number is, and compare the total SNN plus whatever it kind of is amortized over time. And you're going to find, what we find with most customers, is really close. It's a very close number. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on exactly how many different other VMware SKUs that you bought in the past over time and how they blend, right? Yeah. So it's very hard for us to say exactly what it is. But the good news is you do know what the target's going to be. It's very clearly defined, right? So there's no ambiguity about what it is and what I bought 8 years ago with SNN, what I bought 3 years ago when I repackaged it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, going from trying to calculate all those perpetual dollars and ELAs and everything else, it makes it very difficult to do a direct comparison. It's much more straightforward now. You know where you're going, that's for sure.
One thing I do want to point out is that any numbers on here, any kind of discount we fictitiously depict is, we can't guarantee any discounts. These are just examples, right? So that kind of discounting comes from your VMware rep or your channel partner that provides your licensing. So just a quick disclaimer there. And then so that's kind of that, I wanted to highlight that number. That's kind of what you would look like. It's almost like when you go to buy a car and they try to get you into the monthly payment, but it's, you're looking at that yearly cost overall with us. And then the next one.
And for final reference here, as we look at a customer that is going from vSphere to VCF, of course, a yearly SNS for vSphere is not going to be comparable to a subscription cost for VCF, right? There's just no way that that's ever possibly going to be the case. And I understand that there's going to be a bump, but if you go back and take a look at some of our other videos as to a more technical deep dive as to why you would move to VCF, what the components of VCF are. Like I said, if you were a vSphere customer that was even considering an NSX or an ARIA suite or any of the additional capabilities that VMware has been investing into over the past 10, 15 years, then it's not an unreasonable bump to go to VCF to unlock all of those capabilities for what maybe one piece of that window shopping looked like before. And it allows you to go to that full-blown private cloud operational model where you get all of those features and capabilities. So is it going to be comparable? No. And I understand that. And if it was up to me, I wouldn't see a single customer go to VCF. I think that if you work with your teams, they can make you a deal where VCF is the appealing option to go with, and you can change the way that IT interacts with your business. You can go from just a standard vSphere shop where you're keeping the lights on, where you can actually provide a ton of value to your business with all of the suite of capabilities that comes with VCF. So will there be a bump? No doubt about it. Like I said, the water level is rising for everyone, but at the slash price point of VCF from what it used to be before, it is now much more reasonable and more accessible because more people will have it. And it allows VMware to do more with that suite.
You misspoke just one thing there. You said you don't want to see anybody go to VCF. You meant VVF, right?
Yeah, sorry. I don't want anyone to go to VVF. I want everyone to go to VCF. I see us as a VCF shop at this point.
Right.
That's where the capability is. That's where all the feature set lies. VVF is just not appealing in any way. Would rather see everyone go to VCF if they can.
Yeah, and you guys are all good negotiators out there, right? So when you get down doing deals, you got VVF negotiations, you got VCF negotiations, so you can work on that and try to get the best possible price points you can. One thing we want to talk about is bundled offers. So something that we're working for to make this even easier. Andrew, I think we should make it even easier for customers, don't you think?
Yep. So as we go into a consumption model around subscription, what you're going to want is, if you own these capabilities, if you're able to work out a deal to get to VCF, then what you're really going to want to unlock those feature sets. And the easiest way to do that is working with an organization like 27 Virtual, who are experts. We specialize in that. All we do is VCF and the add-ons that are associated with it. So we can actually quote you guys out. If you're interested in an expert who understands the system, knowing what you need, quote you out, we can quote you out. And we are doing everything that we can to include services as a part of that licensing offering, so that you know that if you buy a VCF license from 27 Virtual, you're going to have 27 Virtual at your back to help you deploy it and unlock those capabilities. That is what we're here for.
Are you saying, Andrew, that 27 Virtual can resell VMware licensing?
Yes, 27 Virtual can definitely quote you guys out and sell you your VMware licensing, ideally with our services bundled in, to make sure that you have the best experience in this changing world.
So that means, as a customer, I can get the same people that manage and run the Ninja program for VMware. I get the same people that have done almost 300 VMware deployments to date. And you can sell me the licensing all together in one package? That's
the plan.
Now, can I buy that separately, or is it part of the license package? Can it be included?
We're making, if you're buying licenses from us, we're making it a part of the licensing package. If you have a partner that you're working with already, you can always buy our services separate from that. But if you do it with us, we're trying to give you the best possible price that includes the services to unlock VCF.
Right. So on the screen here, we have Levon spotlighted. She is our sales manager, but she's also your main point of contact for the licensing desk. And that can be the deal desk or the licensing desk, whatever you want to call it. We can put together custom packages that include the licensing, the services, and the education. We do some special stuff around education. Just email Levon, and she can definitely get you connected with the right people. We can scope your environment. We can validate your licensing, which you have now, what you're looking to move to, put together a full bundle that gives you the most value possible. And we offer other things like ongoing service and support contracts and all sorts of things we can bundle in there, residencies to help you with long-term projects, things you might be struggling with. All that can be bundled together in one solution in one purchase. Now, you can still purchase licensing separately from services and education, but it's kind of nice when you're doing that, when you're going through this process and that ELA comes up and you got to go to that subscription model. It's nice to kind of knock it all out at once, right? Because you want to make sure that you're working with a partner. If you're going to purchase that bundle, you want to get as much out of that bundle as possible. And that's where the services and education come in. We can work with your team side by side to make sure it's, scoped correctly, designed correctly, deployed correctly. And then once it's up and running, we can be there to help you get through that next stage, to really get the most out of that investment. And I think that's something that's unique to us as a partner.
Yeah, the thing that I tell everybody is the last thing that we want is for you to see the value of VCF, for you to make that deal to get onto VCF and then run it as vSphere. Right. That would be the worst case scenario. So if you're working with us, we make sure that you have the education, the services to be able to actually run VCF as it's meant to be. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, another thing too we can do, if you're interested more about, I'm going to go back a few slides, like to something more complicated, like this kind of numbers, right? If you want to work with us to go through this in your environment, look at the old, look at the new. We also didn't include any add-ons here at all, but you can look at the whole package price to what you're looking for. We can also kind of analyze your past environment to see what it actually costs in that bottom red line there and do that comparison for you to really see what it is and eliminate a lot of the FUD around this, because when you really get down to the nitty gritty and you really understand what the new is, what the old was, and you compare it, you're going to find in most cases in this, like in this space right here, it's going to be about the same or a little bit less. So it's quite interesting when you see some of the stuff online and some of the things people are saying, and then you really get down to it and you find out what it really is. You go, oh, it's not so bad. Like Andrew, we had a one situation where, what was the one situation a customer thought they had to buy VDF and VCF or something strange like that?
Yeah, right. I tried to make it clear before, but yes, you only need one of the 4 options that we showed earlier. So if you're doing VCF, that's it. If you're doing VVF, then you don't need to VCF and vice versa. You just pick the one and then your add-ons.
That's right. So this is our coverage. So we cover the whole United States. So we have an experienced SE team. Andrew's online here. That's myself. We have coverage on all areas. So automation, security, the VCF stack, and we have a strong team, within our organization. We have a total of about 25 engineers. We have a 6-person sales team you can reach out to, and we cover the US here. Levon is your main contact though. That licensing desk, that deal desk, go to Levon first, and then she can direct you to, that proper person that's going to represent your particular part of the country. I don't have the actual map up here, but we definitely can cover the whole US. So anything like that you have questions about, definitely let us know.
Yep. And then and thanks everybody. I want to answer some of the questions in the chat. We got a great one about, what R&D looks like, what the future of VMware looks like. And I think it was really well put, what I heard the other day in terms of, in the past, VMware was made up of all of these different business units. The business unit that ran NSX, the cloud business unit, the vSphere business unit, and they all kind of competed almost against each other for development funds, R&D, everything like that. And at the end of the day, VCF has been around for years and years at this point. I think it's been at least 6 years since VCF first became a thing. And all those BUs would go out, they'd create the best version of their product that they could, and then VCF kind of just put them all together. They weren't necessarily built specifically to work with each other. But as we go forward, VCF being the business unit or the main business unit, the idea is that all of the components, all the products, everything that VMware does is made so that they work together to the best of their ability as a part of VCF, just inherently. The goal is VCF. It's not just an end result of these different capabilities, but it is the ideal. And that's where all of the R&D is going. So the $2 billion that has been promised to, hey, we're going to put it toward VCF. It's not just to make the products better themselves, it's to make everything work better together. So I'm really excited for that future. And as more people move to the VCF model, it's going to give more capability to say, hey, let's make VCF better. And that's what we're looking for, because we've been working with it pretty much since day one, and we'd love to see it improve even more.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And the other thing too, I want to emphasize, as a partner, when you're looking to go to this new model, experience is really important to get things up and running and time to value as quickly as possible. So, the VCF model allows you to deploy things much quicker just from the way it's structured. So you got a little bit more work on the front end and then things come up fairly quickly. And then you bring up that management domain. And then the same thing with the workload domain. So VCF is basically designed to allow your business to get things up and running and deployed more quickly, make changes more easily, expand it or reduce it more easily, and then perform the updates in a much better fashion. And then once it's up and running, this whole thing about like our team specifically with our background around VCF is the engineering team that we have has got a lot of experience around all the different components. So once you get VCF up and running, that's just like stage one. And I like the new term you use, Andrew. What do you call it when we get into that next stage?
Unlocking the capabilities of VCF.
I like that. It's two stages, right? It's like you get it designed and deployed. It's up and running with the cloud builder, and you can watch all sorts of videos online on how to do some of that stuff. But you get it up and running, and you get it deployed. But now you need to take advantage of it. So that's something where, as a partner, we really shine because we can do two things. We can take advantage of our kind of ninja education background and make sure that your team is trained like a teach to fish or see one, do one type environment. But then we also have the expertise to really get you going much more quickly with those tools. And then we can also augment your staff if needed to get you through for say 9 months or 6 months or a year, whatever it may be. And about the R&D, one thing I heard, and I'm going to say, to put an asterisk next to this because I haven't actually seen it yet. But one of the things we're talking about within our R&D that could be interesting is the ability to make it easier to ingest your current environment, right? Where you could actually fully operationalize VCF and take the current environment and just bring it in or ingest it, if you will. So there's some interesting things coming down. So the R&D, I think, is going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see what they're going to have at Explore this year around that. It's going to be, some pretty good stuff. I don't know, Shana, were there any other questions in the chat? And if you guys have questions, I'm not sure, I can't see the exact numbers out there. If you got any other questions, feel free to post them in the chat.
Yeah, if you have a question, feel free. We'll hang out for a couple minutes here. Otherwise, like Bill said, if you want to start doing some number breakdown, even just very high level preliminary, there's a lot of fear around what it looks like. It's been tough to get some quotes out from the VMware side as their back end transitions into the Broadcom systems. Hopefully that'll be done in the next week or so. But if you want to run through some high level numbers, we've been through the exercise before, and we're happy to do it with you as well. So we've gone through the selling process. We know what it takes. And like we said, we know how to unlock those capabilities. So we want to make sure that we're by your side to do it.
Great. We'll give one more minute, then we'll end it up. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining. Stay in touch in order to reach us. I'm going to put Lee's information back up here again. Consider her the main point of contact for our licensing or deal desk. You can run everything through her, and she'll then hand it out to whoever is the right person. So thank you very much for joining, everybody.